3HL 104.5 The Zone. Britt Doherty, Don Davenport, Ron Slay, broadcasting live from Dallas, Texas. SEC Media Days going on. Cole Cubelic joins us at the table. Analyst for ESPN and the SEC Network. McElroy and Cubelic in the morning on Jocks Radio. Shouldn't it be Cubelic and
it
McElroy?
Should, but it doesn't work that way. It's not life. Life doesn't work that way.
Quarterbacks, man.
Life likes Alabama more than Auburn, and life likes quarterbacks more than offensive linemen. So I tell my kids every day, life ain't fair. Get used to it.
So did you appreciate Tony Vitello's celebration? After winning?
I had no problem with it. I thought it was fine. I like Tony. I've interviewed Tony on the sideline before. He's always been great to me. I think he's a fun dude. I think it'd be fun to play for. I know some of the stuff from a while back, directed at other players on other teams. Okay, but I think he's even learned from that and kind of toned that kind of stuff down. Like, who doesn't want to play for a coach that has fun?
Right.
Right.
Like, we've gotten so far away from fun in all sports. I'm for it, man. Like, and it goes back to. Was it Spurrier that said, if they don't like me scoring 60, stop us?
Stop me. Yeah.
I mean, that's it. Ron's the same way. If y'all don't want, if we're hitting threes up 20, defend the three.
That's all you got to do. That's all you got to do. I mean, what you want me to do? Guys, don't shoot the three. I know you worked hard in practice on it, but let's not shoot it.
You can be egregious with stuff like that, but I just, I like fun.
So one of the storylines, obviously, down here, Oklahoma and Texas coming into the SEC. Oklahoma here tomorrow, Texas here Wednesday. Nick Saban today. What kind of tickles me is all these people asking questions about how Texas always ran the conference they were in. They're not going to run the SEC, end quote.
I think Coach Saban is smart enough to understand, that's not just on the field. And I think he knows that the implications of that statement have to do with the Longhorn Network, have to do with some other things that Texas has done or attempted to do from a revenue-sharing standpoint, and he knows good and well Greg Sankey's not going to let that happen. And then I do think there's a part of him, too, on the field that probably says, hey, man, I've coached against Kirby a couple times. That ain't easy. I've seen what Josh Heupel's offense is doing. That ain't easy. I've gone down to Jordan-Hare Stadium and played. That ain't easy. So you're not going to come into this league and just push people around and say, we're Texas, here we are, we're going to go undefeated and win a national championship. It's not going to work that way.
Do you feel like there's two very different attitudes or postures from Texas and Oklahoma as they come into the SEC?
I see where you're going, and it does feel that way. I just don't think we can judge
right now
the schools based on the fans. And I think a lot of that narrative is being pushed by the fans. And let's be real, a lot of Texas fans are entitled. I mean, I don't know another way to say it. And I think Oklahoma fans are a little bit more of the, hey, we'll go earn it. We'll go prove to you what we are. And it's not like that all the time with all on both sides. I'm sure there's some entitled Oklahoma fans. But I do think that there's a little bit of, you hear the people talking about recruiting or what we've done in the league, and that league hasn't been that strong. All right, well, we've heard some other teams say that, and A&M recruited better than anybody for a couple of years. Don't have a championship. There's no banners.
Where that got him.
Right.
There's not even a sticker. Much less a banner or a trophy. So this is a tough league, and people keep on asking me, what's the biggest difference? This, that, whatever. The biggest difference is the attention, the notoriety, the distractions, the trash talk, the environments, the people. I tell people when I leave this footprint, they always ask me, what's different?
Yes.
What's most different? And I'll tell you, it's plain and simple, man. We love to hate more than we love to love.
Absolutely.
That's it. And you better get used to that. And they're used to that with A&M, but are they used to that with Mississippi State and South Carolina and LSU and Florida? And when you give them reasons.
That's what I said. I'm like, South Carolina was awful last year. And I told Beamer, I'm like, it's one of the most underrated environments in college football, period.
Dogfight.
They were so bad, and they sold out their last 4 games last year.
I was in there with friggin' Darude last year.
Yeah.
I mean, he was DJing the game.
Right?
The place was off the freaking charts.
Yeah.
And that's not an easy stadium to get to as a fan. It's not like you're, in Auburn, you're walking across campus. Yeah.
Fayetteville's a little easier now, but I can remember we got rerouted to Tulsa. When we flew to Arkansas one year and had to wait 4 hours for buses to get there and then bus down to Fayetteville,
I've heard so many bad stories.
It's not a fun place to go play a game. Yeah. So it's just there are a lot of aspects to it that I just don't think you understand it until you do it.
Right.
You've got it's the same thing when people say, and Ron, I'm sure it's the same thing with how do you be a good post player? Mm-hmm. Well, I can go teach you all the footwork you want, but you better get against a dude that's trying to elbow your rear end out of the paint, and then you're going to be good at it. How do you get good at blocking somebody? Well, first, let's get against somebody who's trying to make you look bad, put the pads on, and physically go do it every day.
Yeah.
I can take you out through the sleds and T-board, right, left, and go through the chutes. You're not going to be a good offensive lineman. Like, you have to do it against people that are trying to make you look bad, and they're physically trying to harm you. And that's the difference in this league, is it's going to be a lot of that week in, week out.
Speaking of offensive lines, obviously, I think LSU probably the strongest in the conference, right? I
think so.
I mean, even I can figure that out, right? And I'm no Cole Cubelic.
You're an athlete, though.
Former Auburn, lineman. So, with the shimmy.
Yeah.
Next best in the SEC, and hit us on what you think about Tennessee and what they can do with theirs.
Tennessee is in the mix. I'm excited this year. I think we have a chance, Dawn, to have more good offensive line play in this league than we've had in a long time. Nice. Tennessee is in that mix of teams that have a chance to be a Joe Moore Award finalist and be in that conversation late. The difference with Tennessee and some other schools, Cooper Mays has to stay healthy.
Yeah.
And that actually brings a bigger conversation of, I think there are multiple teams in this league. We could say it about quarterback, edge rusher, or if you're leaning on if you had a Derrick Henry at running back, those guys got to stay healthy to be good. I think there's a few teams in this league with guys at other positions that they have. I think Tennessee at running back. I think once you get past one, it's very different, and he needs to stay healthy because they're super dynamic when he's in the game. But Tennessee, John Campbell is not being talked about enough going into this season. He's right there with Ernest Green and Will Campbell and all the other tackles that are going to have good years. Like, he's up there in the mix for that.
We haven't said his name at all.
He's fantastic. Yeah. Now, Lance Hurd coming in from LSU, physically gifted, looks the part. I mean, a monster of a human being, but he's got some adjustments he still needs to make technically, fundamentally. But you get Spraggins back, I love the way he plays. He's got to cut down the penalties. Mays will be back. Like, that group can be really good.
Yeah.
Georgia can be really good. Bama's middle three, really good. I worry about the tackle position. Auburn's middle three is going to be really good this year. I think there's a couple other, like Ole Miss adds Nate Kalepo from Washington. They haven't had many guys like him in a long time. He's a really good player. Missouri's offensive line's not going to go anywhere. They're going to be a good group again. Texas has a really good offensive lineman. They got a first round left tackle. So I think we could have more. And here's what's really interesting about it. We could have more good, let's just say above average offensive line play in the league than we have in 6-8 years.
Yeah.
The D-line play is way down.
Really?
Like, who are the scary D-linemen in the league? Because it used to be, Don, you could go to every team and pick at least one guy, and most teams had two guys. I mean, you go back to like 16, 18, and you had Marlon Davidson, Derek Brown at Auburn. You had Sweat and Simmons at Mississippi State. Even Ole Miss had like a Benito Jones that they would throw at you, tough to deal with. And there's not many teams like Tennessee right now who have 4 interior defensive linemen that can play. Now, see, people will misinterpret that and think that I'm saying that they're Albert Hainsworth or John Henderson. It's like, but they can hold their own in this league, which is not easy. And then they have the best edge pass rusher in the league. Georgia's not quite the same. Bama's definitely not the same. LSU had 2 scholarship D tackles in spring.
Yeah.
They're not close. That's it. They're not close. They took an FCS kid, and he might be good. I don't know, but I'm just saying, if the offensive line plays a little better and the D line plays a little bit down, are we going to see more teams kind of go to the run game a little bit more, try to live there?
I got to know real quick, man, why do you think it's an increase in the play of the offensive line? Guys being able to stay together with the NIL going on, transfer portal, it seems that the O-line, and you tell me if I'm wrong, is the only one that's not really breaking up. 2 or 3 guys leaving at a time. Is that what it is? They're still being nurtured?
I think, continuity, Ron, I think is a big part of it. You have a couple groups, specifically Tennessee, like we mentioned, 3, 4 of those guys have played together a long time. Right. You don't get that very often. Texas, these kids have been together like all 5 for 2 straight years now. That's tough to find. Yeah. So I think that, and then a couple of guys who've added a piece, you're seeing a little more premium on the NIL of saying, we got to go get a tackle.
Yeah.
And they go get that guy. Kentucky, some of the hits in the portal have been great too. Like, they go get Marquez Cox from Northern Illinois. Nobody knew who he was. He played great for Kentucky last year. So it's finding that diamond in the rough, keeping your guys together. And it still goes back to just putting the emphasis on it, like wanting it to be good, wanting it to be great.
Who's your surprise team in the SEC this year?
First, give me the definition of surprise.
Surprise,
because if it's make the playoff, I don't think there is one. But if it's above expectations, I can probably give you a few. Florida, number 1.
Okay.
Really?
But does part of that have to do with Mertz?
No, part of that has to do with the expectation is 3 or 4 wins.
Guys, so when you say above expectation, are you saying they'll win 5?
I think they're going to win 6, 7 games. Okay. I think a couple things go their way, they could win 7, 8. Yeah. I think if you took Graham Mertz's numbers, and put him on 80 quarterbacks in college football, we're talking about them winning 10 or 11 games.
Yeah, you're right.
Because his numbers were that good. I think the offensive line's better. Montrell Johnson's a really good running back. Trayvon Ball, this freshman kid they got, is going to be incredible at running back. The defensive line will be good. Second, third level of the defense, I don't really know. How much more skill will they have? I love the kid, the receiver they got from Arizona State. Really good player. Freshman coming in that might be able to help. I think Billy's a good coach, and I just don't think that they're going to be a bad football team. They have talent. The other one I think is Auburn. I think Auburn exceeds expectations. Now, once again, the expectations are 5 or 6 wins.
Hey, that's all right.
And everybody thinks that Peyton Thorne has to be this Joe Burrow, Baker Mayfield. They completely flipped that receiver room.
Yep.
There are 4, maybe 5 wide receivers individually that were better than any option they had last year on that football team now. Like Keandre Lambert-Smith's better than anybody they had. Robert Smith, the kid from Georgia State, now he's a slot catch and run guy, but he's better than any option. He catches the ball better than any kid Auburn had last year other than Merriweather at tight end. So if that's totally different, the middle of the offensive line's better. Like, how many people have asked you guys about Jarquez Hunter? It's only been a day, but nobody's talking about him.
Yep.
Right.
He's the most proven back in the SEC. So I'm actually more worried about Auburn's defense than offense. If Peyton Thorne can just be C+, B- and go, 28-50 for 21 touchdowns and 5 picks, I think Auburn's going to win maybe 8 games. But it's the defense has got to find a way to step up. The D-line the D-line problem. Auburn's D-line's not great. Like, there's no D-lineman they have that scares me.
Yeah.
They have 2 edge guys that are super athletic, but they're light. Okay, cool. Rush the passer off the edge. Like, we'll run right at you, and we'll put a chip over there from our tight end, and it's going to be a problem for you.
Real quick, I know we have to go to break, but I just want your take because I don't think we talked to you about J.C. Latham. We've now seen him in spring for the Titans. Summer and spring. He looks like a different level, a different cat in just one-on-one individual workouts. What is, I guess, his specialty? What's going to make him special at the next level? What do you think from his college days?
His power, Don, will separate him. Like, you're just not going to come across guys who can move people and physically dominate people the way that he can. Like I told you guys after the draft, flexibility needs to improve. Feet quickness, change of direction, because he's really heavy, and not a bad heavy. I mean, if there's a good 360, he is a good 360. That sounds crazy, but like, he's a Vince McMahon first-round draft pick. Like, the dude could walk to WWE tomorrow and get a job, like, just because of his stature and how he looks.
That's great on a resume too, right?
If he can learn to, get a little bit lighter on his feet, it might not hurt him to get down to 345 or 350.
He doesn't look
not at all. No, and that's the lady who was the nutritionist at Bama said he was ahead of Evan Neal and Jaheim Otis as the heaviest lean body mass they ever had under Nick Saban.
Wow.
He was like 350 pounds of lean mass, which means he's like 20 pounds of fat. Maybe. It's insane.
Yeah, I'm 220 lean mass.
You, right?
What? Yeah. All right.
I asked him before, we had him before a game. I was like, what's the max bench? And he's like 505. I was like, oh, okay. He said for 2. And I asked David Ballou, the strength coach, I said, well, what's his max squat? And he's like, well, he did 985 one time with chains. So he did 985 with like the heavy chains hanging off of the squat bar.
And
he's like, we stopped him.
They stopped him.
Yeah, we're not going to let you do any more than that. That's dumb.
There
He is literally the Incredible Hulk. And if he can learn how to get better with his agility and flexibility, he could be a great tackle in the league.
Yeah.
Cole Cubelic, ESPN, SEC Network, Talks Radio. Thank you, Cole. Always good to see you, man.
Absolutely, guys. Appreciate
your
you having me.
perspective. All right, when we come
War
back,
Eagle, Cole.
War Eagle, Don.
Vanderbilt football coach Clark Lee joins us next on 104.5 The Zone.